And they have that in common. Need, notice, is the one thing that can overcome religion and politics. And that's what Jesus is teaching us today. This coronavirus, it will bring us together over religion and over our politics. Could you be so kind as to give me a drink, Jesus asks? That was a good place to start the conversation. Connect. Find a way to connect. Even with an outcast. How do you connect? A simple act of kindness always accomplishes that. Do you remember our politicians used to overcome their differences and talk over a drink? They got things done. I wish they'd start drinking more. That's what Jesus does. He has a drink with her. And we find out that she too is thirsty, isn't she? Her thirst isn't for water, though. What is it for? It's for a sense of being known by her name and not her past. And isn't that something all of us have in common? We want to be known and loved. And you and I have that in common with our enemies. It's a good place to start if you want to reach them. What would Jesus do? Well, he now is going to reciprocate with an act of kindness by giving her what she needs. How does he do that? By openly discussing the issues of her life. The church calls that confession. Jesus addresses with her her past in order to free her from it. That's the value of confession. He wants to free her from that past by talking about it, but not condemn her for it like everybody else was. He wants to, you see, to get out all that past in the open. Let's get it out in the open so that she can deal with it and get beyond it. That is a beautiful kind of love. Get beyond it for good. That is to help her and forever. Her past will finally become past. And in that, Jesus models the way you and I can receive people who are condemned, especially by churches, for their past. So Jesus, imagine this, turns the conversation to religion and politics. He was very brave, because those were her issues. That's a model of redemption for us. Can you imagine what would happen if Republicans and Democrats, agnostics and evangelicals, fat and thin people, black and white people, straight and gay people would talk? What might happen? Well, they'd get to know each other. So how could we do that? Jesus says, get together for a drink. And in that act, you will find out how you are related. That's Jesus' model of redemption and salvation for the world which is caught up in the past. That is what Jesus does. That's what he expects us to do. Because you see, when the spirit of love, not law, but when the spirit of love and common need pull people together, they stay together. And they find out that they are related by blood as children of God. and that all of us, including our so-called enemies, share a common need to be known and to be loved. The world is dying of thirst for that. And by the way, notice the story doesn't end with Jesus actually helping this poor woman. We're told that the woman is no longer afraid to be herself. She's finally able to love herself now that she's beyond her past. And John tells us she doesn't keep this to herself. She goes back to her city. And what does she do? She tells everybody about Jesus and what he did for her. That she told them the whole story and that he did not condemn her. This Jesus who treated her with kindness, with respect, and who gave her the ability to live with the truth, would set her free. And because of her testimony, because that was such an extraordinarily good story, many other Samaritans, John tells us, wanted to know Jesus. That's what happens. So they asked Jesus to stay with them. And Jesus says, "No, I'm busy." Of course not. Jesus stayed with them. I know he had a bunch of other things to do. And I know that he caught a lot of flack from his disciples for what he was doing. But that, my friends, Jesus teaches us, is the cost of redeeming the outcasts who share our need to be known and to be loved. Jesus stays with those Samaritans, and it got him in a whole lot of trouble on Good Friday. 2 days. That were not on his schedule, and with no support from his religious friends. And after those 2 days, they believed in Jesus because he satisfied their thirst. And Jesus taught us what John 3:16 actually means. There's room for everybody. All you have to have is a need. So who are you shunning? Who's your enemy? Do you shun them in the name of God? Do you know them? Or have you only heard about them? Are you just another one of those people who go along to get along? Who are your sworn enemies? You need to have a drink with them. Who are those you deem sexually deviant? You need to sit down and have a drink with them. Who are those you deem recidivist sinner, not worthy of another chance? By the way, Jesus gave this woman 7 chances. And then later on he tells his disciples, I made a mistake, make it 70 times 7. You need to sit down and have a drink with them. Because if you do, you're going to find out those people aren't who you heard and thought they were. It might be that they're just a terrible cook. And that's why they did some extraordinary things, because they had no choice. They were just trying to stay alive and support themselves and their children. Maybe that's why they broke the law. And isn't that something we all have in common? Let me answer that. We do. And that's where we begin to develop relationships in our need, not our judgments. We need to sit down and have a drink with those we judge unworthy. Because in doing that, their thirst and your thirst for love and companionship will finally and forever be satisfied. If you receive this as the word of God, say amen.